Welcome to Truckee Talks. I'm your host, Maya Schneider. In our sleepy little town of Truckee, high technology, well, it's true. It's possible and it's true. And on today's show, we're going to be welcoming group members from Sierra High Technology Group, and they'll be telling you about their businesses and what they're doing as an organization. Jack Schwartz, president of the High Technology Group, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Maya.
Welcome to the show. And we also have James Sandwick and Nick Pullen. Welcome to all of you. And we'll be taking turns in talking about your businesses and what you're doing here, but first I want to talk a little bit about what brought you here. And Jack, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Truckee.
Well, it started with a ski cabin. We had a nice ski cabin in Tahoe Downer, and my wife had businesses in the Bay Area, and so did I. And one day she said, "We're moving to the mountains." And I hung onto my hat and said, "Okay." And in fact, we did. We bought a home up here, and it turned out to be a great decision. We closed down our businesses, and for our family, it's worked out very well.
Now, you were involved in high technology before you came.
I was involved in high technology. I was CEO of a software company down in Palo Alto, and I actually did telecommute for 1 year. And but we're a horse and dog family, and I've got small children, so we've been very happy with the move.
And mountain living and high technology can mix?
They can indeed. It turned out to be that I would commute to the office down in Mountain View a couple times a month. And I would get a Southwest flight, take off, have a Coke, and land. And 50 minutes later, I'd be in the office. And my fellow employees might be stuck on 17 or 101. I actually beat people into the office.
Spending more time on the highway than you were in the air. Well, James Sandwick, how about you? How did you end up in Truckee?
Well, we moved down from Alaska, and we're looking for an environment that was similar, small town living.
Yes.
But a place where there was a good hub so that I could get to my clients, which are all over the country. So Reno provides a really good access to in and out to get to pretty much any place I need to go. And it's great schools, it's a small town life that my kids grew up with in Juneau, and so a big city wasn't going to work for us, and this worked out just fine.
Now, James, you tell a story that I think a lot of people in Truckee and Tahoe tell in terms of wanting to be close enough to the metropolitan areas of the Bay Area and close enough to an airport hub and be able to maintain a certain lifestyle while living here in the mountains. Mm-hmm. Nick Pullen, how about you?
Well, actually I'm originally from Canada, from Nova Scotia, and it just so happened I met my wife kind of traveling on the west coast of Canada, and she's a longtime Truckee resident, Buff Went. And about 4 years ago, we had this kind of long-distance relationship going, and I decided to take the leap and move out here. And I absolutely adored Truckee from the minute that I saw it. I mean, it's just one of the most charming places you could ever be. And I certainly didn't move here for the job opportunities. Because, 4 years ago, it's not known as a center of high technology. But I think with the evolution of the internet, I think we're proving that you can really start a company anywhere in the United States. It doesn't have to be in New York. It doesn't have to be in Dallas. It doesn't have to be in a major financial center. You can really do it anywhere, and Truckee is just an ideal place.
It certainly is. We'll be talking a little bit more later in the show about your companies or organizations and what you do. Jack, tell us a little bit about the genesis of Sierra High Technology Group. How did it come to be? Why did it form in the first place, and what are its goals?
Well, really the start of it was when we moved here, and I was telecommuting and commuting into the Bay Area. And as I was here, I kept stumbling across other people who were refugees from Silicon Valley.
Expatriates.
And so that happened more and more. And I found myself that, as Nick said, that it was very easy to be here. And with the internet and the fax machine and the phone, you could be almost any place and do business. So I merged out our company that I was running, took a few years off, and then as I kept stumbling across more of these people at Safeway or over in Tahoe City, I thought, there's probably a critical mass here. So I called a meeting, made an announcement in the paper, and lo and behold, the first meeting we had 50 people in a room.
Wow.
And everybody was a seasoned veteran, and they all had their war stories, and everybody knew each other or knew somebody who knew them, and it grew from there.
It sounds like information that we'd love to get just out of the census. How many high technology people are here? What are they doing out of their homes? And here you are already creating the group that's being the conduit for that kind of information. Let me ask you, what are some of the challenges that high technology firms face being in Truckee? For instance, do you have access to the kind of high-speed internet lines or infrastructure that may be available in the metropolitan areas that isn't here?
Well, we're fortunate here. We do have high-speed access, and broadband is key. It really has to be available. So we have the cable system here through USA Media. I'm a subscriber. Occasionally I hit 1.2 megabytes, and compared to my telephone line connection, you know, I applaud every time I see that. I feel like I'm speeding. I should be getting a ticket. But,
well, it could happen.
we also have T1 lines and ISDN lines available, so it works out pretty well from that standpoint.
So it is possible to have high tech.
It certainly is. I mean, infrastructure-wise, our prototype in Sierra High Technology as a venture firm will probably be to see most of our CEOs and founders up around the lake. And the businesses that need space can go down to Reno. And there they have an abundance of office space, manufacturing space, flex space, and it's a 35-minute commute away.
That's great. So it really does fit the needs. Well, let's talk a little bit, James and Nick, about your experience. How did you hear about Sierra High Technology Group?
Well, actually, Jack and I played tennis a lot together and talked about each other's businesses and what we did and how we did it, and realized that there was a real nexus there between the part I play in helping companies innovate, helping them build an infrastructure, develop an organization, and what he was doing to help get startups rolling. And so I was a founding member, an early member of Sierra High Technology Group, and currently work on the Strategic Development Board. So first steps sort of in assessing companies that are ready versus companies that aren't ready to launch.
Well, maybe we should take a step back and tell me a little bit. You explained how Sierra High Technology Group came to be. What is your mission? What as a group, what do you want to do or hope to achieve?
It's been an evolution. We started off as a networking group, and from there I added a consulting arm fairly quickly because I saw startups and the need that they had for management, for seasoned management. And that's always been part of our mission, is to apply good business practice to the technology sector. A year or two ago, that wasn't always happening, and we saw that frenzy of startups where you didn't necessarily have a good business plan, and you may not have had seasoned management. But I've structured the group so that we have a full spectrum of management consultants. I have several CEOs who have been there and done that with their companies and made successful exit strategies and moved up to the lake. Our real technology in Sierra High Technology is the wealth of talent that we have. And available talent is always in shortest supply in the technology sector. So we've harnessed all the people that have come up to the lake. We have several people in Reno. We have a management consulting group down in Reno that has a proven track record. And we apply that rigorous business practice to the startup venture.
Is it part of your goal or plan or mission or even thought process to involve some sort of educational element in Sierra High Technology Group to perhaps recruit
Yes,
newcomers?
Good question. Excellent. Well, you're going to have to become a member.
Oh, great. That's what I need. I need one more thing to do.
Well, in fact, what we do is at our meetings, which is about every 2 months right now, we have a presentation for an hour. And it is intended to be educational and informative. But we're adding a part, and James presented at our last meeting, where we bring in people who can provide ongoing seminars and conferences for people for education and furthering the skills that are required by an entrepreneur. As I say, Reno is an ideal location for growth of these startup companies, but it requires talent. It's a people-driven business. So one of our purposes is to raise the level and skill set of those people involved in the startup area.
Well, that's exciting, and would be exciting for our region, as we as communities and as a region tend to strive for economic diversity, even though we're sort of tourism-based. That's changing somewhat in our local economy, and certainly there's a drive to see that change even more, perhaps even with local higher education presence in the community.
We also work with the University of Nevada at Reno.
Okay.
And we work with the business school. The dean of the business school is on our board. And we work with the engineering school, the computer sciences division. because those will be key. When you look at what makes a successful region, and everybody tries to emulate Silicon Valley, and it's a real rare mix of things that make that a successful venture for everybody. Education is key. You have to have the people. You have to have the money supply, the capital, availability of capital.
Right.
So those are all elements that are coalescing and becoming into the region.
Well, let's briefly, we just have a couple of minutes left in the segment. We want to make sure that we get people information. Again, we're talking about Sierra High Technology Group, and we'll put on the screen now some information on how to contact people. Jack, when and where is the next meeting?
Next meeting is May 29th.
Okay.
And we alternate our meetings from the North Lake at the Conference Center in Kings Beach, and then we use various facilities down in Reno. So we want to tie the Reno Lake Tahoe regions together.
Okay. And if you want to attend this meeting, do you need to make a reservation or contact anybody?
We'd like you to RSVP,
Okay.
and that information is on the screen.
Okay, so there you have it. Next meeting for the Sierra High Technology Group, May 29th, 7 p.m. And sierra1@oakweb.com is your contact email address. All right, Jack, thank you very much. James, when we come back in the next segment, we're going to be grilling you about your business. Stay with us. We're talking about high technology in Truckee, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about high technology, and on this segment, we're going to be talking with James Sandwick about what it is you do. What is it that you do? It's got to be something high tech, that much I know.
Well, actually, Maya, it isn't.
Okay, I'm out of here, that's it.
The Center for Innovation Communication is a group that teaches companies to innovate. It's a broad HR consulting company. So we work with companies building infrastructure, helping them design an organization, do HR consulting, policy, compliance, that sort of thing. But we also train in innovation techniques, teach creativity, and help companies find that next thing, the new method, the next Federal Express or the next Cisco, if you will. So we do a wide number of things with a wide range of companies.
You've intrigued me on the teach creativity. We're going to go back to that, but I have a question. Why here?
Why here? Well, again, number one, it's a good balance of a place to do business from and a place to raise a family in.
Yeah.
So I can do business all over the country through technology, of course, using computers and cell phones and all that, but I can also be at a client's location pretty rapidly. Most of the West Coast is within 2 hours of Reno.
So how does your business mesh with Sierra High Technology Group?
Well, as Jack had mentioned, part of Sierra High Technology's focus and mission is to upgrade the skills and abilities of these companies. There's a huge encyclopedia of companies that didn't make it that had great ideas. Having a great idea is just the first step.
Right.
There's a lot of great companies who failed when it came to managing the company after it started. Getting people's attention was easy because they had something that was very, new, very
Great
exciting.
idea, yeah.
But creating a company and running a company are two very different skill sets.
Absolutely.
And so Sierra High Technology and my part in that largely is to upgrade those skills and identify key management gaps, if you will, and help to fill those either on a consulting basis or by finding somebody to bring in that can manage that part.
Sounds like a great partnership. You found the people with the ideas. They need help in nurturing and in some sort of structure to follow. There's a lot of people out there with great ideas but wouldn't know the first thing about running a business.
Sure.
Do you only work with startup companies, or?
No, we work with everything from the Fortune 10, General Electric's been a client, DuPont, Johnson & Johnson, and we've had clients that were 20-person medical technology startups bringing on their very first professionals. So pretty much as wide a span as you can draw, that's what we've worked with.
That's quite a list.
Yeah,
It must be fun.
It
sounds
is.
like you must love your job.
Yeah.
Okay. Teach creativity. How do you teach creativity? Isn't creativity something that you either have or don't? It's either innate or it's not?
Well, it's a common misconception that creativity is a talent, and you either get it in your genes or you don't. But surprisingly, creativity, because of that mythology, people don't realize that it is a skill set you can learn. Most people consider, if you think of who you think of as creative, they're artists, they're painters, they're sculptors, they're writers, they're people who are a little strange, a little half a bubble out of plum, and so I'm afraid of being creative because it looks like it's an embarrassing thing to be. And after we've shown them the actual techniques that people innovate with, the big companies who have people who literally it's their job 40 hours a week to come in and create. Folks at Hallmark that have to come up with the next new card. Black & Decker, where you have to come up with the next new shop vac or product. I mean, when you do that 40 hours a week, that's a lot of pressure.
I'd rather make widgets.
Yeah. And, but there are skill sets that they use to do that. And those skill sets are contrary to most people's idea of creativity. They're highly structured, they're very disciplined skill sets, more like mathematics actually than science or art.
Ooh, you just said my favorite. Well, Nick and Jack, let me go over to you guys now. How important is creativity in your lives, in the work that you do? Nick, let's start with you.
Well, it's absolutely essential. I mean, in order to be a successful company, I think a lot of people on your team have to have that creative talent. But not only that, they have to be able to manage it and apply it. And I think that's, James, where your consulting services come in. It's one thing to have a lot of ideas. It's another thing to really select the ones that are great and refine them and channel them into a product that is absolutely fantastic. And so for us, we have a tremendous amount of creative talent on the team. There's a lot of fiery brainstorm sessions sometimes. But I think we've done a pretty good job of working through that and coming up with something that we all like and agree upon.
Yeah, I couldn't emphasize that more, what Nick said about creativity, and it's got to be a continuing innovation that keeps going on with the company, because you need a second and third act to be successful. Another skill that James does teach is communication, team communication within the company. Nick mentioned the fiery brainstorming sessions, and that's good, but they need to be managed, and you have to end up with a good end product, a good result from that. So that's another area that James can address as well.
Do you work with individuals at all, or do you hold classes on a regular basis, or do you just go out and work with companies?
We work with a wide range of folks, and small groups, big groups, some individual coaching, mostly executive coaching for the communication side of it. How do I come across better? How do I say things the way I want them to come out instead of the way they come out? How do I learn to coach my team rather than manage the people? Most of this stuff is customized to the client, so we have a wide range of things we can do with them. But most of the time it starts off with looking at what they're doing, what their needs are, and then taking sort of the Chinese menu, one from column A, one from column B, and assembling a regime of training that fits their specific needs.
There are a number, maybe a plethora of consulting firms that work with companies on management skills, supervisor skills, sales skills, and communication and team building. How do you set yourself apart from your competition, and how do you stay on top of the curve enough to be ahead of your client in terms of what's the latest technology in human resource training? Okay.
Well, first off, our niche is generally aimed at the smaller company, the mid-sized company, what the big 5 consulting firms call geographically undesirable. If you work in Midland, Texas, you understand that. It's far away. It's not easy to get to. You spend a lot of time traveling to and from. In fact, sometimes more than you are actually spending training. And so a lot of the big firms don't want those clients. They cost more than they're worth.
So you found a niche.
And the other thing is the creativity innovation training is something that very few companies do. There's companies that do the one-day cheap dip, think outside the box, get loose, and suddenly you're creative. And if that worked, it would be surprising because it doesn't. But even if it did, when you get back to work, how do you replicate that?
Right.
Okay, so what we teach is fairly unique. In fact, the technique of lateral thinking was developed by a fellow by the name of Edward de Bono, who's world-renowned in the teaching of thinking as a skill. And there's only 100 of us who are certified by him to teach that methodology. So still a pretty rare thing to find in the U.S.
Well, I could do a whole show with you, but then I have a background in human resource development, so I could go off on that, but I'm sure the audience wouldn't want to hear that. And besides, we have to hear from Nick as well. So, James, thank you very much. Again,
Welcome.
that's the Center for Innovation and Communication, and you're based here in Truckee?
That's right.
I gotta love that. All right, we're talking about high technology. We have members of the Sierra High Technology Group, and as you can see on your screen, information there on how to get a hold of the Center for Innovation and Communication. So, James, thank you again. When we come back, Nick, we'll have you in the hot seat and talk about what you're doing and what exciting changes are coming up in your life, and we'll be back in just a minute. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. We're speaking with members of the Sierra High Technology Group, and next up is Nick Pullen. Nick, welcome.
Thanks, Maya.
Now, I understand you've got something new and exciting going on. You're the CEO and founder of Lease Loan.
Yes, Lease Loan is a developer of real-time business financing. Basically, our mission is to help the small business owner across the United States grow their business by making it very easy for them to get capital, equipment, leases, and loans into their business.
And what's the difference between real time and walking into your local bank and getting a loan application?
Well, this is the neat thing. A business owner can hit our website and establish an account for their business, which they can use over and over again to finance pretty much anything that they need to get for their business in terms of equipment. And the neat thing is we bring basically a marketplace of lenders behind our website. So that gives them the best chance of getting approved for the amount of financing that they're looking for at the best rates possible. And they get an approval and documentation all in the same online session, which is very different. I mean, normally it can take up to weeks to get an approval and the documents, and takes a long time to actually find a bank that's willing to approve your business for a particular piece of equipment or a certain dollar amount.
And you've got lenders lined up and ready to look at
Yes.
information as soon as it's
Yes,
on there.
actually we've integrated about 10 what we call small ticket lenders. Those are for transactions under $100,000. One of them is including GE Capital, one of the largest
It's a big name.
lessors in the United States. And we also work with about 100 other banks that do larger transactions, over $100,000, all the way up to even $10 million.
That's very impressive. Now, how many employees do you have backed up on this?
We have 18 employees right now.
That's great.
And about, most of them are actually original, Truckee residents, and the rest that we had to import from elsewhere. We have a couple of Canadians working for us.
Oh, true imports.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't happen to come from Nova Scotia, did they?
No, no other Nova Scotians, unfortunately.
You may be a very rare breed in Truckee,
Right,
indeed.
I'm sure.
When's your kickoff date? When do you go live?
Well, part of our system is live right now, but the business owner section of our website is going live April 19th, so very soon. So very soon people will be able to establish their account and obtain real-time business financing for their business, for, again, pretty much whatever it is that they need.
And I was just going to ask, now, who's your target businesses? If businesses in the area are watching this and they're thinking, well, gee, it's time for me to buy a new loader, or it's time for me to expand my business.
Sure. I mean, it's virtually any small business owner, and it can be, it can be pretty much anybody. It can be someone in construction, it can be a dentist, it can be a filming company. There's really no limits on what type of business that we can work with. The only limitation is the stuff that they need has to be for essential business use.
Sure.
It can't be a toy that they want to use outside of business hours.
And write it off
Sure.
for business.
Yeah.
Did you come to this, Nick, because you had an interest in finance and banking and thought that the web would be a good place to approach that, or did you come to this from the technological end and saw that there was a missing piece?
Well, I've always been interested in small business development. I think the small business owner is the real engine of the American economy. And, business financing is one of the biggest problems that any business owner faces. So I've always been interested in developing something that makes it a lot easier for them to obtain capital. And the nice thing about the latest developments in the web is that we can bring this kind of value to a business owner, make it very easy for them to get approved, and basically expose their transaction to as many different lenders as possible, ensuring that they get the best deal possible.
All right, let's get your information up on the screen because I know that we have contact information for lease loan. And here's your information, lease loan located on Donner Pass Road, telephone number 587-7105. Businesses requiring large dollar amounts, more than $500,000. This is where Sierra High Technology Group comes in. Jack, you want to speak to that?
It is. We're just now rolling out our first venture fund and getting that funded. So businesses that are beyond the angel stage or that first stage, which is friends, fools, and family. We are at that level. And the venture fund will have a regional basis. We're sort of triangulated between the Sacramento through Lake Tahoe to Reno corridor, and then we also have connections over into the Phoenix, Scottsdale area.
A really fascinating triad of businesses coming together here. When you look at the Sierra High Technology Group, what you're doing in terms of providing a business need out there on the web, what you're doing in terms of helping businesses create, innovate, expand, and think, and then, of course, pulling it all together through the High Technology Group is just super, and it's great to see it
It's a very powerful
happening
engine
here.
to bring people with startup ideas and ventures to full operating basis, and we just have I can't emphasize enough, people are always surprised at the talented backgrounds and the seasoned backgrounds of the people who are here between Tahoe City, Truckee, Incline, and we've been able to harness that and apply it in Sierra High Technology Group.
Well, there's a saying, you never know who you're going to meet on the chairlift, only nowadays that person sitting next to you and talking high technology is just as likely to be your neighbor as somebody visiting from out of town. We only have a minute or two, and I want to make sure we get all of the information here. It's really been a fascinating conversation. I appreciate all three of you being on the show. Jack, you wanted to mention something else about Sierra High Technology Group and what you do with your membership.
Right. One of the things that I've used in bringing people into Sierra High Technology is that I want them to be community involved and doing business a little bit differently up here in the mountains. But I look for community involvement, and also we've dedicated 5% of our net proceeds will be going to land conservancy issues in the area and also to community resource issues.
It's great. Local groups staying in contact with each other, helping each other out business-wise,
Right.
and being a part of the community. It's ideal. I really commend you on everything that you guys are doing, and really commend you on bringing that sort of industry to the Truckee Tahoe region. It's wonderful to see that kind of diversification. That's my personal opinion, but I think it's a great thing. So I certainly appreciate it. Let's get those graphics back on the screen one more time. If you want to contact the Sierra High Technology Group, we do have website information. Here you've got www.sierrahightech.com. Jack Schwartz has been our president here of the High Technology Group, and he's available at 587-7685. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show. It's been a lot of fun. I would love to talk at length with each one of you about what you do, and I'm sorry we didn't have more time for that. I wish you much luck, Nick, in your new
Thanks,
endeavor.
Maya.
Congratulations. James, nice to have you on the show, and Jack, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
You have been watching the 99th show of Truckee Talks. We'll be celebrating our 100th show in just a week or so, so watch for that coming up. In the meantime, thank you for joining us on today's show, and we'll see you next time.